What is up, guys? MJPB back again once again for another tier list. As you can see, we have the Pokemon of Generation 2, and if you've been following the recent uploads, you will know that we have just finished our Heart Gold installment of the Hardcore Generation Lock. So like we did with Fire Red, we are going to be doing a Viability tier list or a usability tier list for all of the final evolved Johto Pokemon that you can get in the Generation 2 games. But the factors will be their availability in Generation 2 onwards, sort of movesets they have. This is based on the most recent moveset data that they have, their abilities, and then obviously their stats, including their weaknesses, resistances, immunities, and things like that. So yeah, first up we have Meganium. I think Meganium is probably a filler. I wouldn't say it's horrific. I'd say it's probably one of the better grass types you're going to get in Generation 2, if I'm being perfectly honest. Has capabilities of healing, screens, things like that, status moves, but it doesn't really have the move coverage elsewhere. Is also has more weaknesses than resistances, which doesn't help, but is a very, very good defensive mon otherwise. Typhlosion, unfortunately, is going to go into... Wait. No. Meganium's bottom of mainstays. Typhlosion is in fillers. Yeah. Okay. There we go, that's better. So Typhlosion, pretty much the same as Meganium, just on the offensive side, but doesn't really have the move pool to back that up, in my opinion. Feraligatr is definitely the best starter. Not by much. I'd say it's very, very close between Feraligatr and Meganium. Feraligatr is definitely more of a physical presence rather than a healer or screens or anything like that. But it can take hits pretty well, so definitely the best starter from Generation 2 in terms of hardcore Nuzlockes. Farret's going to go in backups, probably somewhere towards the top though, because it's very available. Normal types do tend to have a very wide move set as well. Has access to switching with either U-turn or baton pass. I can't remember which one. Ability and stats is probably where it lets it down, but it does have an immunity, which is always very nice in hardcore, because just means you're able to switch out quite easily, along with U-turn, which is going to be very, very good as well, because it means you can just keep on pivoting back and forth. Noctowl is actually quite a good mon. And because it has better capabilities in terms of its move set, I think it's going to go ahead of Typhlosion. It does obviously have 2 immunities in Ghost and Ground as well, and it's generally more common to see in a playthrough than Typhlosion, just because it's not a starter really, and it's a early bird. So yeah, Noctowl for me, gonna go top of fillers for now. Ledian is gonna go underneath Farret. Obviously has that ground immunity still, can switch, and has access to heal, screens, etc. But yeah, not amazing otherwise. Ariados, unfortunately, is going to go probably top of stack. There's definitely worse Pokemon in the Johto decks, but in terms of what Gyarados can actually bring, it does bring a lot in terms of moveset, and obviously it has a better resistance than weakness, but it just doesn't really bring much otherwise. We do have our first MVP and potential winner of the Generation 2 Viability in Crobat. Very easily accessible. I'm very upset that I lost mine in Heart Gold. Has access to everything pretty much, and a diverse move pool. Massively fast, more resistances than weaknesses, ground immunity. Stats are pretty good as well, considering it's not some of the Pokemon that we'll see towards the end of the Pokédex. So yeah, Crobat is 100% an MVP, and yeah, really, really bad that I've lost the Crobat line in my generation lock. An MVP in our playthrough in Lantern or Lampieri, but statistically, probably gonna go top of mainstays. I don't think it's quite an MVP. It was in our playthrough because probably because it was Johto. I think in other regions it's probably not as good. It is still fairly accessible. You can usually manipulate the encounters to try and get one. And yeah, you saw what we did with ours. But I think you can switch with it. It just doesn't really have the move coverage. It's pretty much water and electric moves only, apart from like Ice Beam and things like that. Stats wise, it's not amazing either. But it does have a lot of resistances. Now, some of you might be surprised by this. But I know, Meganium's going top of filler. Yeah, my bad. But Togetic is actually going to go top of mainstays. This is bearing in mind the Fairy Flying form. So it does have 2 immunities. But considering it's not fully evolved, later generations you can now whack Eviolite on it as well, so that makes it even better. It's usually a Giftmon, so you're guaranteed to get one in a lot of the games that it's in. And the move pool is just vast. It can serve many different roles on the team. Whack an Eviolite on it and it's probably going to do a very, very good job. Serene Grace as well. If you get Serene Grace 1 with something like Ancient Power, then you could really, really start seeing the potential of not even Togekiss, but Togetic. So yeah, it's definitely going in mainstays. Xatu is... I'm going to put it ahead of Ledian, but below Farret, because it does have the ground immunity like Ledian, but I think it does bring a little bit more in terms of moveset. Psychic type is obviously a little bit better than Bug type a lot of the time as well. Yeah, nothing really too much to say about Xatu. Ampharos, personally one of my favorite Pokemon. It's probably going to sit just behind. Oh, this is tough. This is tough because you can switch. It has utility. I think it goes just ahead of Meganium. Ability can be good sometimes. It's usually static. Good stats. Obviously, the only weakness to ground, which probably helps it out over Meganium. Moveset is okay. Definitely gets better with each generation. Blossom is probably below backup right now. Can obviously heal and give status and things like that, but again, grass types aren't the best defensively, even though Meganium and Blossom do have pretty good defensive stats, to be fair to them. Azumarill, obviously you've got a fairy type, so it has an immunity in later generations. I believe it's not, can get huge power off thick fat, which again is really, really good. I don't think the moveset does it justice. I think if you gave it a better healing move than Aqua Ring, I think it would be a lot better. But I think it's going to have to go, to be fair, probably below Noctowl. Just because Noctowl has 2 immunities as well, so in terms of Nuzlocke ability, it's Noctowl's definitely better in terms of that, and you're not guaranteed to have Fairy Azumarill. So we'll put it below Noctowl, I think. Sudowoodo for me is going to go bottom of filler. Again, not too much to say about it. Has a pretty high encounter rate in the Generation 2 games because it's a static mon, has sturdy, no immunities, good attack, good physical presence again, like for Alligator. But apart from that, it's nothing special, but nothing bad either. Moving on to Politoed, which is actually where we're going to see another mainstay. Gets damp, I think, doesn't it? Which is very, very good because you can just send that in on anything that's about to explode, self-destruct, etc. Doesn't have any immunities, so I'm going to put it below Togetic. And actually, I'd probably put it below Lantern, to be fair. Jumpluff is going to join Ariados in the sack. For me, probably, there is another grass type here, but which we'll get onto in just a second. But yeah, Jumpluff for me has a lot of usability in terms of moves, but apart from the ground immunity and the speed, it just doesn't really hit anything. So it is very much a pivot, get off a status move essentially, or a healing move. And I think, yeah, for that reason, I think it's got to go ahead of Ariados actually. So obviously we've got Apom here because up until Gen 4 you can only get Apom. So Apom is going to go behind Ariados. It's just the stats aren't nearly good enough for this stage. Obviously we have the Ghost immunity. So I guess the Ghost immunity is kind of wanting me to put it ahead of Ariados, but it doesn't really justify. It's not really justified. Sunflora, however, is arguably the worst Generation 2 mon. Obviously it has healing, but defensively you don't really get much out of it, and potentially if it had a better ability it would be a lot more useful, but it just doesn't. So Sunflora for me is going to go right at the back. Yanma's actually going to scrape into the backups. Move pool is quite good, access to U-turn, speed boosts, ground immunity still. Defensively, it could be a little bit better, so it is going to go behind Ledium, which is essentially its rival in terms of bug flying types here. I believe it gets a healing move as well. I'm trying to think of what it is. Probably Roost, isn't it? So it does have a little bit of usability. Quagsire is obviously pretty good. Water ground types, so obviously we know with Swampert, Wishcash, all very good water ground types. Quagsire is one of these. I think the immunity probably pushes it up around Lantern. I think if I didn't get the Lantern, I probably would be using Quagsire on my own Heart Gold team. Yes, it's quite usable. Probably just needs a bit more coverage. Like a lot of water types, it's mainly the water moves, secondary type moves, and then something like an ice type move. But yeah, gets access to Yawn as well, which is very, very nice. And only the one weakness in Grass, so has to be up there. Espeon as well is going to go into mainstays. Probably. Ooh, this is where it gets tricky. Yeah, because I mean, Espeon is good on the special side. It has good speed. In comparison to Feraligatr, who's mainly physical, which is the problem. I think we go here. I think that is a good spot. It probably needs a bit more on the move side. I'd like a little bit more coverage because it is a more offensive mon than a Stantler, which is what Umbreon is. Which I'm probably going to put in between Lantern and Quagsire because it is a bit more bulky, tanks hits, and it has an immunity which Espeon does not. And yeah, defensively it's very, very good. Murkrow, same reason for Apom and Yanmar being on the list, and Togetic in all fairness. Has 2 immunities. And that's about it. That's about all it's got going for it. But it does have 2 immunities, so it's going to go to the very top, just behind Fire. Slowking, again, we had Slowbro in the Heart Gold Generation Lock, who unfortunately died during the champion fight. Sorry if you haven't watched the finale yet, but that would have come out last week. I think Slowking definitely makes mainstays because it is bulky, has good special attack, lots of resistances. Move pool is good. I'd be tempted to put it just ahead of Espeon. I think Espeon could probably learn a bit from Slowking in terms of moveset. Misdreavus, obviously the only ghost type in this list, as was Gengar in the Kanto one. So has Levitate, so it actually has 3 immunities, which is very, very good. So it's actually going to go to the top of backups. Might even get pushed to the bottom of fillers, but for now it's going to go top of backups. Availability isn't especially strong, and obviously the stats could probably get better. Eviolite helps that for sure, but for now it's going to go there. Unknown, some of you might be asking, well, to be fair, Unknown is technically the best sack, because it doesn't do anything for you except switch in and take flying type attacks, not flying, ground type attacks, because it has Levitate. That's the that's the only benefit it has. But I think we go here, honestly. Wobbuffet is a risky Pokemon to use. Could definitely be an MVP. no doubt about it. But for me, ooh, yeah, probably just in there. Yeah, nothing too much to say about Wobbuffet. Yeah, it's quite a common encounter though, so it is actually. Yeah, no, I'll leave it there. Girafarig probably makes into fillers. Probably ahead of these guys, because obviously it has the ghost immunity, which takes out one of its weaknesses as a psychic type, which is very good. But apart from no, yeah, I'd say ahead of Typhlosion actually. With that normal typing, it does have a very diverse moveset, which is very nice indeed. Fortress is a filler for sure. Only has one weakness, I think, doesn't it? In fire, lots of resistances and immunity, massively stacked physical defense. Just not very common. So for that reason, I think it's got to go towards the back of fillers. Dunsparce, likewise, being a normal type, has obscenely good moveset, gets Serene Grace Ancient Power, which is crazy to me. So for me, probably just behind Fortress. Gligar is probably going to surprise a lot of you, but it does have 2 immunities. Has pretty good defense as well. So yeah, EV like Gligar, definitely a viable Pokemon. And for that reason, I'm probably not above Noctowl. It probably needs does have switch. I'm gonna put it ahead of Noctowl actually. It might be a hot take, but I think that's a good place for it. Steelix for me goes into mainstays. It can just take hits. Massive 200 defense. Yeah, again another 2 immunities. Poison. What's the other one? Poison, electric. Yeah, obviously. 8 resistances. So yeah, 100%. If we could get a healing move, then probably even better. But yeah, massively underrated Pokemon in hardcores. Gramble, obviously Fairy type, so has Dragon or Ghost immunity depending on the game you're playing. Again, just needs more variability in its moveset. In terms of like actual moves, it has lots of coverage. Has a good attack stat, so I think probably takes it away. And yeah, just because it doesn't really have as much, Girafarig is able to switch out and things like that as well. So give it to Girafarig. Quillfish, unfortunately, is going in sacks. Doesn't really have too much going for it, to be fair. Stats aren't fantastic. Has a lot of resistances, which is useful, so it's higher up in sacks for sure. Scizor is going to be mainstay. Arguably the hardest part, the worst part about Scizor is its availability. Yeah, ability is really good. Poison immunity. Again, it's like essentially it's a better Fortress. And I think it goes here for me. Yeah, it's a very, very good Pokemon. Shuckle. It's definitely in fillers. Can take hits. Yeah, yeah, I'd probably put it towards the back. If I'm no, I'll put it ahead of Sudowoodo. You know, I think it is a lot more viable than Sudowoodo. Doesn't have any immunities though, which is probably what lets it down. Otherwise, it would be insane because of its ridiculous defenses. Heracross is probably going to be towards the bottom of mainstay. Usually able to manipulate, especially in Generation 2, to get Heracross. Just doesn't, only has attacking moves really. So yeah, probably towards the bottom of mainstays, to be fair. Sneasel isn't quite as good as Gligar because it just doesn't really have as much variability in its moveset compared to it, and that's essentially what lets it down in comparison. Also, the ability isn't fantastic. Obviously has Psychic immunity, which is nice, but Ice types as a whole just don't really do too much. So yeah, it's probably going to go at the back end of filler. It is still usable, but just not really effectively usable. Ursaring is unfortunately going to go. Oh, do I put it behind Furret? It's not that usable. It's the same amount of games. Furret's moveset is a little bit better, so I'm going to put Furret ahead of Ursaring. Even though Ursaring is personally one of my more favourite normal types, I'd argue. But yeah, it's just the moveset lets it down a little bit. Apart from that, it's just pretty good. Could do with a bit more speed maybe as well, but yeah, otherwise it's pretty good. Cargo, is it the only? No, we've got another Fire Rock in Colossal now, don't we? There might be another one at some point as well, but yeah, again, good defensively. And actually has a pretty good move pool. Obviously, water type is, yeah, you can't really do much about the water types, but I'd say it's a good Pokemon if you keep it away from water. Then it's actually pretty usable. Piloswine. This is an interesting one because Mamoswine is obviously very, very good. Piloswine, however, probably just lacks a little bit on the defensive side. So you could whack an Eviolite on it, and obviously you have that electric immunity, but 5 weaknesses to 1 resistance just doesn't really cut it. And I'd say electric immunity isn't all that helpful, to be fair. So I'll probably put it down here, if I'm being honest. How many we've got left? About 20 odd. Okay. Corsola is going to be a sack. Yeah, doesn't really do anything. Decently defensive, but yeah, nothing too much going. I'd probably rather have the poison type as well because there's not too much that's good against poison. Octillery is going to go in filler. Its move pool is very diverse. It just lacks a little bit on in variability in the moveset in terms of like healing and utility and things like that. Yeah, it is pretty much just a physical mon in my eyes. Delibird is definitely going in the sacks. A, because it holds one. B, because in a lot of games it only got present, I'm pretty sure. So it's a bit like Unknown and another Pokemon that we'll come on to later. Obviously has that immunity still. So it's okay. Can do damage as well. unlike Unknown a lot of the times. We'll put it ahead of Unknown. Mantine is actually pretty good. Doesn't really have much in terms of weaknesses. Has a ground immunity as well, which is really nice. Actually has a really big special defense as well, which I was surprised about. I think it gets Roost as a healing move. Again, likewise, you can usually manipulate for one. So I think actually I'm going to put it just behind Steelix. Might be a hot take, but that's where it's going. Skarmory, on the other hand, is going to go into MVPs. Very good mon. Flying types, as you can see, are quite good from Generation 2. The only thing I wish it had is a way to switch in and out, which a lot of the other flying types do, in terms of like Crobat and things like that. But yeah, very good mon. Defensively solid, poison and ground immunities, hate resistances. Just, yeah, very good mon. Houndoom, another personal preference of mine. Not entirely available, which is a little unfortunate. I kind of wish there was a fire move like Volt Switch, which would be cool. Offensively, it's pretty good. Has a psychic immunity, so definitely going in to the top of filler. Is it the best fire type? No, it's not. Ooh, no. There are better fire types. Well, there's a better fire type. Only one though. So what? Yeah, we'll put it in filler just behind Meganium, I think. No, behind. Ooh. Yeah, we'll put it behind Noctar because immunities are a massive thing in Hardcore Nuzlocke. Kingdra is going to be on the same level. Just doesn't have quite as much of the move pool. Obviously has very good stats, and not too much in the sense of weaknesses. Dragon typing being quite nice as well. No, it doesn't have the move pool. Not even in comparison to these guys, to be fair. Yeah, I think there's a fair shout. Donny. Ooh, in contention for one of my favourite Johto Pokemon, with Ampharos probably. Maybe Crobat and Lantern have been up there recently as well. But like Ursaring, it's just not available in most games. Which is unfortunate because I do like it. Has the electric immunity, very physical presence. Not so much in terms of anything else. Donphan for me does go in mainstay. I don't know if I can put it as high as Quagsire. Probably just below Quagsire. Porygon 2. Ooh. I'm actually going to go an MVP. Obviously, Eevee Porygon 2 is very well known because its defensive stats are a little bit broken for a middle stage mon. Yeah, and obviously being a normal type, move pool is pretty good. Gets recover as well, so definitely going to go in there. Stantler is actually very good, but it's only in Johto. So it is going to go into filler, but I reckon we can get it just here. I think that's a good spot for it. Smeargle is actually going to go below Sunflora because it doesn't really. No, it still has an immunity. I was going to put it ahead of below Sunflora, but it does still have an immunity, so we're gonna allow it. Hitmontop, very decent. Probably in filler for sure. Could do with a healing move, I reckon, because its defense is pretty good. Gets Intimidate as well, which we haven't really seen too much in here. But Houndoom gets it as well. I think Gramble gets it. I could be wrong with that, but I think it does. Yeah, we'll put him in there. Miltank is actually going to go into MVP as well. Ooh. I'm going to put it ahead of Porygon 2. I am. Porygon 2 is a little bit slow. Miltank actually has better physical defense, potentially not with the Eviolite, but its abilities are very, very good, scrappy and thick fat. So, although it only has one weakness and an immunity, you get thick fat, you get 2 resistances on top of that as well, and then scrappy allows you to hit ghost types with normal type moves, which is really, really good, and it's pretty quick as well. Access to healing, utility moves, normal type, so it has a large move set. So Miltank's actually going to go up there. Blissey is going to quickly replace it in second place. We all know what Blissey can do. We've seen it. Just don't send it in against a physical attacking one, and you're good pretty much. The only way it could get better is with a switching move, probably, and a bit more speed, but that's about it. Now onto some hot takes. You can actually get some of the legendary Pokemon in Generation 2. So they are only available in the Johto games. Raikou does have switching, which makes it the best of the Mons here, but still not as good as these. Probably here. Entei is the worst of the legendary dogs by far. Has status, but the stats don't really give it an opportunity to shine. Is definitely probably there. And then Suicune is just going to sit in behind Murkrow. Yeah, so all the dogs are in backups. I don't think you should be using them, really, because you get them. The encounter rate isn't fantastic. So, yeah. Tyranitar, although the encounter rate isn't fantastic in Johto, you can get it a little bit easier in other generations. The move pool is very, very good. So it's going to go into mainstays. Psychic immunity. Just too many weaknesses, if I'm being honest, and not enough physical presence. Not enough variability in the moveset in terms of what it can do, apart from just being a physical monster. Lugia is the final MVP from Johto, because we like to have 6 MVPs whenever we do these. Very diverse moveset, access to healing and screens, etc. Ground immunity, obviously, and I mean it's a legendary, isn't it? So yeah, I think Lugia slots into third. Ho-Oh is, and yeah, they are in one game. So actually, because they're only in one game, I think they've got to come down. Lugia is going to go 6th. And because you are only in one game, Ho-Oh is not going to go as high up in the mainstays as it was a few seconds ago. Does have more resistances and less weaknesses than Lugia, but yeah, it doesn't really have the move set either. Is definitely the best fire type though. Probably got to put it ahead of Donphan, don't I? And then last but not least, we have Celebi, who's going to go into backups because you can't use it in any standard hardcore Nuzlocke. Yeah, you can only get if you're doing a randomizer. Stats are good, obviously. It's 100 across the board, a bit like Mew. Moveset's good. It's literally just the fact that you can't really get it in any game. But obviously, if you're doing a randomizer, still pretty useful and can get U-turn. So it's going to go ahead of Suicune. But yeah, that is the Johto Viability tier list. Those are the top 6 Pokemon that I recommend you get. Not just in Johto, but in all generations beyond, because they are just in general very, very good Nuzlocke mons. But yeah, that essentially wraps up our Johto part of the Hardcore Generation Lock. So until Hoenn, I'll see you guys next time. Peace!